taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Augmented Reality podcast for December 12th, 2020. And this is a week we've been waiting for a very long time. Of course, we had Cyberpunk 2077 release this week. We've been spending a lot of time in that game, but we're going to be talking about a couple other things because apparently some other stuff happened this week. Apparently there was some kind of awards show. Apparently some things happened there, so we'll be talking about that as well. This is your source for news, leaks, and insights about games and the gaming industry. And it's the Saturday edition of the show. My name's Ash. I'm here with Moontag and Cybsidian. As always, how are you folks doing today?
Good. It's lovely to see so many of you joining us for the live stream. Please do say hello in the live chat. Send us your questions and comments there as well. We'll read and respond to as many as we can throughout the podcast. And as we get going, don't forget to slam that like button. It likes it rough. It tells us and YouTube that you appreciate this content. And for those listening after the fact on one of the audio-only platforms, we're glad to have you join us and glad for your likes and follows. To get the latest info sooner, be sure to hit the link in the description below and subscribe to the Triple S League YouTube channel.
All right.
Army mateys. I have a question for y'all.
All right.
What is the best ARM mod? Now, I was talking to some people in the Discord yesterday, and I'm pretty happy with my choice, but I'm just wondering what everybody else has been going with. Obviously, there's the option of not going with one. Maybe you like your regular fleshy, bony flesh hands and fingers, and if you want to be a meatbag, that's totally up to you, but, totally up to you. Let me know what your guys' thoughts on that are, because I'm still not really liking my. I don't know. I'm still on the fence. I like the idea of the arm blades, but I tried them and I honestly didn't use them for like several missions in a row, just because it just wasn't. I wasn't ever needing them. But then during a couple other portions of the game, when I went back and I switched over to the missile launcher, I found that far more usable. But I also killed myself quite frequently with it. So, because apparently that explosion, it's not so much as a projectile that's being shot from your arm, more like it's a projectile that starts out as a wall around your character and then moves forward and becomes a smaller, like, conal shape. So, if you're standing there in front of a flower and that flower is like 2 feet away from you, and you like aim your missile out and you fire your missile, it's immediately going to hit that flower and explode you, and your body is going to go everywhere in tiny little pieces. So make sure that you're standing with nothing in front of you. I've had this issue a few times, and it's honestly quite aggravating. I tried the mono wire. Again, didn't really hack very much. So, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, let me know during the video and in the comments what your guys' thoughts are on which ARM mod you guys like the most.
Yeah, well, I'd be curious what everybody's favorite cyberware is. I have not tried any of the ARM mods yet, actually. I've been running around doing so much other stuff, I've forgotten to kind of install cyberware. Although I do have the hand one that lets you connect to the smart weapons, and I have what else did I? Subdermal armor, I think. Other than that,
Okay.
yeah, I
got lucky. I got a legendary subdermal armor, like, early on in the game. So it's 200 armor rating. I still all my other benefits have still not caught up to that. I'm still at like 370 or something like that.
Okay.
So the majority of my armor is still coming from that modification. So just that one cyberware. So that's quite cool.
Yeah, the Islington girl says, I'm still finishing the prologue, so distracted by all the stuffs. I know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
I know what you mean. You can spend forever in the prologue. I had to force myself.
Same. I had to push forward, and I mostly pushed forward because I wanted to like move the content on and like try and like get a handle on the story before I did this today, and then there's another podcast that'll be joining today too, talking about it. So yeah, it's gonna be. I wanted to push that out, but it was not easy to like push because I didn't want to leave. I still wanted to do more stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, same. I'm still stuck in a prologue as well, like many of the people seem to be in the chat.
mm-hmm.
You're still in the prologue. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. The post prologue, like, very depressing. I just gotta say, very depressing.
The end of Act 1, you mean? Like,
yeah.
Just before you go. Well, yes. I mean, I think we all got a hint of what happens in the promo material, and we'll just leave it at that for now.
Let's leave it at that. I don't want no spoilers here. Other than I found the post prologue stuff to be fairly depressing. But yeah, no. Honestly, we're gonna be going over some of your all reviews of the game. So if you would like to help us out with this, we've been going over them in our Discord. There's a room for it. You can leave your like full on review there. Try to contain as little story spoilers as you can. I don't want to know how Bob the Martian died horribly on trying to retrieve the ice cream of joy. Please try to like keep that stuff out of it and focus more on the just your general thing. So in the chat today, please leave a like 1 out of 10 vote for how you think the game has been so far. So please leave your rating of the game so that we can kind of get a decent number of what your numbers are on what everybody. So let's before we get too much into that, just kind of dropping that there, let's hit some of these other stories first.
Okay, so we'll talk about the Game Awards first, I guess. I don't actually have a slide for that, so I'll just go back to the title slide. I do have slides for some of the specific things we'll be talking about as far as the new.
We're going to be talking mostly, like, we're not going to be talking Game Awards. I mean,
let's touch on it very generally. Let's touch on it how the show was this year. I had a very good excuse not to watch it. I was immersed in Cyberpunk 2077, of course, but Sibes, you did watch it. What are your thoughts on how the actual show went?
It was a waste of time. I completely agree with Common Pants in the chat. 100% a waste of time. It was. I mean, there's not even an illusion of like trying anymore. That's kind of what I felt like. Like there was not even any trying. 2 of the stars who got called in to do this big performance of reveal were clearly like talking off of some notes on a monitor. Like,
yeah,
they were clearly just reading their stuff, including their jokes. Jeff Keighley, your jokes fell flat almost every single time. He laughed at his own jokes to try and like make up for the fact that there wasn't people laughing in the audience with him, which is always a huge mistake. Huge mistake. Comedy is clearly not his bit. Probably shouldn't be trying it. And I gotta say, the corporatism, like, some of the reasons why none of the Game Awards worked before is because there's this sense of like corporatism of like, oh well, you can't upset certain companies. That would not be very nice, and people would be very upset about that. And Jeff Keighley stood up on stage and called out Konami to their face. And that's what made me like the Game Awards, because he said he looked at a big corporation that was in control of a big thing, and he said, screw you. I don't like the fact that you're screwing somebody else over. I don't think that's cool. And this is unacceptable behavior. And that's when he won my respect. He's lost my respect in the last 2 years. Last year, it started to like I could tell that they were really, really sucking up to a lot of people, and it was like an ad. It was nonstop ads throughout the entire show. This year was worse, 100% worse. Way, way, way more corporate BS sucking. Way, way more like let me tell you things that you don't like. You don't care about. B, it's like this is a natural progression of stuff. I found it odd that he twice like I don't want to get into the political stuff, but it just came across as like campy and really, really, really like, oh, we're better than you, don't you know that? And it's like, okay, all right.
Well, I
Sure.
think there are some of these folks that definitely do seem to think that.
Oh yeah.
I did some research into the voting jury. It's not hard. I mean, it's right on the Game Awards website, but I hadn't looked into it before. But it's all gaming media. The only pleasant surprise was to see that Kotaku was not on the list, but it's the Polygons and the Verges and the LA Times and Game Informer, Ars Technica. Not all of these are bad outlets. IGN, but some of them definitely you definitely see an ideological bent to them. And there's one representative from Canada, the CBC, of all things, our publicly funded general broadcasting company, which is just exudes political bias. And yeah, like I'm not saying all of these are bad companies, but it's all mainstream gaming media. That their votes go toward 90% of the winners. They also pick the nominees. Like when I say 90% of the winners, what I mean is there's that public vote. That's basically just I don't even know what to call it. It's a joke. That the entire vote by the general public on the website, that counts toward 10% of the vote weighting. The other 90% is these outlets. So I don't even know why they bother. It's all pretend. Like, we have no influence there if it's 10% of the vote. Yeah. Like, the chances of us upturning or act, maybe if the if the big boys are really split on something, they're split down the middle, then maybe the public's vote pushes one over the edge. But that's about the only circumstance where I can see us, the actual gamers, making a difference in the Game Awards.
Yeah, no. Well, they have one field in which the players have the supreme vote, and that's for the player's voice, in which they went, and this was the only field in which The Last of Us did not win, where it had been entered.
There's a few where it didn't win. It didn't win best soundtrack, and it didn't.
I'm sorry.
It didn't win. Surprisingly, it didn't win best art direction. Because if there's one thing, if there's a couple of categories where I would say The Last of Us Part 2 potentially deserved to win. One being art direction. I mean, the game was very beautiful. Like, you can't argue with that. And then there was one other one I can't remember. I know we talked about games for impact, and it definitely made an impact. It might have deserved to win that category, because if it did anything, it got people talking. Now, of course, it was not even nominated in that category, so go figure. But yeah, it didn't win best art direction. It did not win best score and music. And those are two categories where it was nominated. Best art direction went to Ghost of Tsushima.
There's 26 categories. 26 categories, and they were nominated for 9.
Mm-hmm.
They won 6.
Yeah. So what's the third one that they didn't win that they were nominated in?
The player's choice, the art direction, and the soundtrack. Those were the 3 ones that they were nominated for that they didn't win.
Huh.
And meanwhile, basically, every other game that actually deserved it,
in those categories was completely snubbed, and it got to the point where, I mean, even like even Druckmann started looking kind of like after he had accepted his fourth award, he was kind of like looking like, oh yeah, thanks again. It's like congratulations, you made yourself a joke now. The audience was not having it, and the just generally, I think people are more or less done with it. So yeah, I would say too. It it's it's sad. I am no longer looking forward to. I'm no longer looking forward to the Game Awards at all. Probably very disinclined to cover it next year. More inclined to cover our own or to do our own, based off of community something. So
That'd be fun.
if you guys have ideas, Sword Sister last night we were talking about it, and she suggested, you know what? Why don't we just start doing them? I'm like, why not? Like clearly the corporations don't care, and the gaming press do not care about what we the people have to say. So we the people should just take it and do it on our own.
Yeah,
Because
like
if they don't
community
care about
awards.
what if they're giving 10% to a player's choice, and there's a whole room full of people who have completely lost track of any at all kind of like interaction, then yeah, this is absolutely ridiculous. So anyways, let's talk about some of the games.
Well, I wanted to get Moontag was trying to say something there. What were you saying?
Oh no, it's just it's a very odd run of events, like watching like these other groups put on the Game Awards. So like, why not have our own community awards? Like, because well, we already have like a lot of really great conversations. So it's like, why not see more about what each other think instead of like these other people who are trying to tell us what to think.
For sure. Common Pants says partner with some other YouTubers and make it a show. It would be great. You know, that would be fun. That would be fun. That's definitely an idea we'll take under consideration, because it would be great to have a community driven thing. It would be a lot of work, I imagine. Well, we'd start small, but we'll kick that idea around, and maybe something will come of it for sure. All right, so we did see some trailers and teasers for various games. We're going to talk about 3: Dragon Age, Mass Effect, and The Perfect Dark. Now let's just quickly talk about Perfect Dark, and then we'll get on to the BioWare stuff. So the Perfect Dark teaser that happened there. Just bringing up the slide for it here. There we go. So
why do you keep calling it The Perfect Dark? It's Perfect Dark.
I said Perfect Dark. I said the Perfect Dark slide is what I was referring to. So
okay.
This is the game that is from Microsoft's quote-unquote quadruple A studio. So this is a very interesting thing. I'm a little surprised to find out that this so-called quadruple A studio is working on a pre-existing IP rather than a new IP. Now, Perfect Dark, I actually have never played the original. But I have heard really good things about it. It's something that...
For shame.
It's before my time, I guess. I don't know. It's an older game, right?
Wow. Okay, so yeah, Perfect Dark, legendary game that every person except for Ash apparently has played in their youth.
You know how sheltered I was in my youth, right? N64 was, and that's kind of the era it was in, right?
Yes, that was the era that it was in.
I didn't play on that.
I mean, the rare times I got to play on a 3D gaming console was at my cousin's house, and yeah, that just did not happen very often. My mom kind of had some strange ideas about 3D graphics. She thought they were hypnotic or something. Anyway, carry on.
Joy. So yeah, just generally, like, it was big for the gameplay. It was big for a lot of like community stuff. So yeah, I'm very interested to see where they're going to take that kind of stuff and how they're going to react and interact with that. yeah, this is something that I'm, pretty much looking forward to. I want to see, very curious as to how they're going to grow this, because it has been a very long time since this has been out, which has been really shocking, because we're talking about a game that was like, part of formative years on people growing up, and it never got the continuation that we had been hoping for. So looks interesting. They saying that this is quadruple A. All right. Again, I'll believe it when I see it. I don't believe anybody when they say that they're like on their face when they say that they're working on a quadruple A. I'm excited for some of the tech that some of them are trying to push, but some of this stuff is hit or miss. So, everyone.
Well, quadruple A basically refers to the budget size. So will it deliver on that is a completely separate question. I mean,
Yeah.
you can pour bajillions of dollars into a game, and have it suck. I'm not saying this one will, but it'll be interesting to see what they pull out of this.
Yeah. And then basically there was a bunch of other like games that were announced. Nothing really that interesting. Endless Dungeon, kind of interesting, maybe.
I want to say a quick thank you to Rensten for the super chat. Yakuza 3 through 6 are coming to PC. I'd rather spend money on that than cover Gamer Would Go Nuts. It shows how much contempt they have for us.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So yeah, the big ones that we're going to talk about today, obviously, is Dragon Age and Mass Effect. I didn't really see, if you guys did see a trailer that you were interested at the Game Awards, let me know, because right now I didn't. There was no trailer other than Perfect Dark that was interesting, and again, a lot of these didn't show gameplay. A lot of them were just showing like whatever. So
yeah, the Dragon Age and Mass Effect ones were they were very vague CG trailers. Like they didn't give any specifics at all. It was kind of a
and
just hinting at story, hinting at this is continuing.
Yeah, and just as a reminder, everybody, this is the third year in a row that we've had a quote unquote teaser from Dragon Age without any gameplay at all. Without any gameplay at all. Let me reiterate that. This game has been announced and has been showcased and has been teased for basically coming up on 4 years in a row. When you're teasing a game for 4 years in a row, typically means you're in development hell. Typically means that you're not doing good. Typically means that you've restructured the game. And typically means you have absolutely no hope in hell of producing a good quality game. Let me remind you that this studio that had spent 7 years on working on Anthem. 7 years working on Anthem. Now, the game supposedly was mostly built in the last 18 months of development for Anthem and as well as for Andromeda. So, again, question from the comments, do we hate BioWare? I'm quickly hating what BioWare has become. I haven't hated BioWare. I was very sad when I played Andromeda. I was even more sad when I played Anthem. These are people that I know that have worked on these games. I've worked in conjunction with several people from BioWare in the past. I have absolutely no hatred for the studio. I'm hating what they're becoming, because what they're becoming appears to be is EA's female dog.
Well, the studio currently that is called BioWare is essentially there's nothing left.
Not BioWare.
There's no. It's the same name, but it's like it's like keeping the same PC case and changing out all of the components inside. There's just nothing of the original left.
Yeah, every single one of the original people that built the company in the first year are gone. And that's not a small list of people. That's a big list of people. None of them are working there anymore. None of the writers, none of the creators, none of the creative minds, and they haven't been for a long time. Casey Casey and his the other fellow were the last two of the original first year team members that left. There's less than 5 or 10% of the second year people. So the people that came in on their second year of hiring, and as well as it gets worse. Like third year, fourth year, most of those people are not there anymore. There's no mentors at this studio. There's nobody giving direction on what to do and how to build it, other than people that have been there for a while that forced out a lot of these other people. So what kind of game studio are we creating here when you have basically an insurgency that's walked in, taken over pretty much everything, forced out a lot of these old guys, and this has happened in other studios as well that we've seen over the past few years. This has happened essentially in Blizzard now, and Blizzard's very much. I mean, Blizzard is very much on the ice as it is, you know, pun intended. So do I hate them? No, I don't. I'm not happy with their last few games. It's very sad. It's incredibly depressing because you're looking at something that you were hoping was going to be, you know, a difference causer, you know, somebody who was going to be able to do something, you know, good and healthy and create positive, you know, something, anything. And what you've had is just this walking away from the original ideals and the original thing that created that studio.
Yeah.
And created that experience. And they're just turning around and walking away from it.
If you've been following our channel for a number of years, you'll know that we held out hope. We held out hope for BioWare for a very long time. And it's come to the point where we're not convinced they can deliver. If they can't, we would love to be pleasantly surprised. Trust me, with the new Mass Effect, the new Dragon Age, we would love to be pleasantly surprised and see them turning things around. We have seen that EA Studios can produce good things. Jedi Fallen Order was a very good game. It was a very safe game. It was a very corporate formula game, but it was a very good game, and it was a very Star Wars game. Really enjoyed it, even though it didn't innovate a ton. But Respawn's doing something right, and we'd love to see BioWare go back to what they used to be. Back in the day when they were making Baldur's Gate, when they were making the original Mass Effect, which I still remember when my friend gave me a copy of Baldur's Gate 2 and it completely blew me away, and then he showed me a trailer for Mass Effect, and it was a studio that was very close to where I lived at the time, and it was super cool that I was like, this is being developed super close, and it was like I could reach out and touch it. But it's it's not the same thing anymore. Yeah.
So basically, I don't know what else to say other than, it doesn't appear to be doing well, and everything is very worrisome. But the development hell that BioWare has been in the last two of their major games have huge problems. We have a so the original development of Dragon Age was codenamed as Joplin. Now it was changed to, and since then it's been changed to Morrison. Joplin had this concept where it was going to really push long-term gameplay long-term in-depth, big choices. It was going to be designed around taking big chances with the story and with pushing narrative stuff and then doing tie-ins and all this kind of stuff to make you want to play the game because of the lore and because of the story. Well, now so on the board, if you were to walk into their office, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't have a, one of those boards that you write on. At the top of the list, they were listing the importance of features within the game. Up at the top was story, was interconnectivity, for the player, so the player being able to play the other games and recognize certain things, and to be pushing a story forward that was being pushed out or used in other mediums, connecting players with meaningful choices, that kind of stuff. That was their list of priorities. You walk into it now, Morrison's top priority is long-term live service component. That's their most important thing. Microtransaction involvement. So forcing you to involve yourself with microtransactions. That's their number 2 goal. Number 3 goal is, I can't even remember, but it doesn't have anything to do with story, gameplay, or making you enjoy or like the characters. So tell me from that, what happened? Where's the passion? Where's the new direction? It doesn't exist. So
it doesn't sound like a great recipe. So let's talk about Mass Effect then. So we saw a teaser at the Game Awards that would, I think, incite a ton of hype if Andromeda hadn't happened, and if things hadn't gone downhill as far as Mass Effect hype in general. Now, Mass Effect, this is not to hate on Mass Effect. Mass Effect is a great IP, and has great games in its history. And even Andromeda had some redeemable qualities, but it... are you detecting the level of hype about a potential Mass Effect 4 game that you would expect? Like, I know, like, when I saw it, it was kind of like when I saw the trailer for Star Wars, not Last Jedi, what was the final one? The Rise of Skywalker. Where I was kind of like, well, okay, surprise me. You've let me down. Let's see what happens. I guess I'll see what happens when it comes out. I'll try it out and we'll see what happens. But I was not excited at all, even though it looked like a concept that would excite me if I was in a different state of mind with regard to Mass Effect. You know what I mean? So I don't know. What do you think? What do you guys think?
Part of me hoped, like, crossing my fingers. Part of me is like, I hope they can do this right. But at this point, they've disappointed me so much, and again, there's nothing there in the way of, like, the only people that they have at the studio that was on any of the previous writing teams was like 1 or 2 bodies that had done some of the more disappointing writing in Andromeda. That's who's currently leading the show. So, yeah, that's what's going on there.
So, not a ton to be excited about, I suppose. Got any thoughts on this, Moon?
Well, hope for the best, prepare for the worst, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I mean, if you have any other thoughts about either of these trailers or the Game Awards in general, or any other games you want to see us cover, let us know on the Discord server. We have a content requests room and lots of other discussion channels where you can talk about things. By the way, if you haven't slammed the like button on this podcast yet, please do. We really appreciate that. It tells YouTube you appreciate this content. A couple of comments I want to read from the chat here. Taimur Hafiz says that Mass Effect trailer was just BioWare and EA saying, please be excited. Yes, exactly. And it's...
I should mention this. The release date right now for Dragon Age is 2022.
Okay.
Possibly 2023. And the release date for Mass Effect is 2 to 4 years after that.
Well, okay then.
So if you're excited for waiting for 7 years for the next Andromeda, good job.
It was
Sorry.
interesting that they showed in the trailer, they had that one shot showing 2 galaxies. Makes, wonder if they're going to... It almost seemed like they were leaving their doors open to say, okay, we might connect this to Andromeda, we might connect this to the original trilogy, maybe we haven't decided yet. Yeah, not sure. There was another one. Benny Bronco asks, any news of the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, a long-anticipated 4K remaster of the original Mass Effect trilogy? Yeah, that was officially announced, and so there was quite a bit of news on that a couple weeks ago. I can't even remember how long ago now. We talked about it. We talked about it quite a bit. I don't want to rehash it because, our hope is, well, at least Cyb's hopes for it are not terribly high. But anyway, we'll see. I mean, maybe they'll surprise us. That seems to be a theme today. Maybe they'll surprise us. All right. You're listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast, and we love seeing everybody so active in the live chat. If you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, I welcome you to join our Discord community. We've got a great community going on there. We have got a lot of Cyberpunk 2077 discussion going on right now, and it is people sharing what they like about the game and what they don't like about the game. We have set up dedicated room for you to post your reviews of the game, and we do things like that regularly. So check it out. Place where you can chat with us and other Triple S Legion members about all the things we love to talk about. Stay up to date about what we're doing. Click the link below to join, and say hi to us in the welcome channel. Also going to plug the merch. We have merch. Check the link below to get some of this awesome original artwork by our very own Moontag. She's very talented. Or the logo merch. So yeah, we've got the Chompler merch there. We've got the This Is My Low Level Alt, and we've got the Running Around the Net Cyberpunk girl. So, and more coming, right? There will be more coming.
That's right.
Moon's constantly working on stuff. We have a hidden room on our Discord server where she dumps artwork ideas, and it's like she's always putting stuff there for Cyb and us to see. So Cyb and I to see. Okay, see, I'm looking at my coffee cup right now. It is only half empty, so clearly haven't had enough of that. All right. The big topic today, of course, the release of Cyberpunk 2077, a moment we've been waiting for a very long time. We've been covering this game on this channel since 2017, and that's when I basically heard about it for the first time. It was back in 2017. Cyb told me about this game called Cyberpunk 2077, and he got me to do this news compilation video about it, and I knew nothing about it, but I know a lot of you have been waiting for it since 2012, 2013. Long time. Very long time. So yeah, the day is finally here, and let's talk about whether or not this game actually lived up to the hype. Did it earn the hype that it was given before release? And we're going to talk about questions like, was there some, how do I put it? Was there some misrepresentation in marketing in certain aspects? Things like that. Let's talk about general impressions first, and I'll scroll back up and see the numbers that you all posted. So
I did a rough average of all of the numbers that were posted.
Oh, good, because they're gone for me now. Oh no, there they are.
Yeah, no, I did a tally earlier on. But yeah, we got 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10 was the average, and I see a lot of our regulars posting numbers there. A lot of 7s. Sunglare gives 6.5. One of the more, I believe Sunglare posted one of the more critical reviews, which is fair. There's some fair criticisms to be made. Max Derrick gives it a 9 out of 10.
The biggest thing I would say appears to be the bugs. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of questions that I wish I had the ability to verify this info. but there's a couple things that I think people should do if they're having problems. One, update your Windows.
Hmm.
Two, update your graphics card or your graphics drivers.
Yes, make sure you have the latest drivers if you can. There was
Give your computer a good long, like I would say hour, but really you only need like 7 minutes. But yeah, give your computer a good 7-minute shutdown, like actual shutdown. Then reboot it. Patch the updates. Probably do that. Probably restart again, and then play from there. I think a lot of people who are having issues with certain bugs will find that a lot of their problems are now gone. The other thing that I would caution people against is if you suddenly experience a crash, back up 2 saves. Not just the last save that you did, but the one before that. And this is why you should save fairly often. Last night, I encountered my first 2 crashes of the game in the same area fighting the same mobs. Crashed twice in a row. Polly was like, sounds like you have a bad save, and I agreed. So I backed up 1 save before that, redid the fight, no problem. So there is bad saves that can happen. This happens in Skyrim. This happens in a bunch of games that have open world component systems, especially things that have like rooms with like interactable objects and stuff like that. Sometimes you can spawn in or create a bad object in the game, and if you're crashing, or there's some bad code in that, if you're suddenly having these issues, back up 1 save before that. And again, that's why I would highly recommend that you save every like at least 5 minutes. Once every at least 5 minutes. And you can rotate your saves. So if you have like 3 or 4 save slots and you just kind of like keep on like you can, save over top of them and overwrite them. That's not a bad idea either, just to kind of like, keep if you're having issues with space and stuff like that. Because that seems to be, I would say, those are where all of my problems happened. The other problems that we're having on a technical front is where, and this was in a lot of like comments. It's like, well, people playing on the consoles, on the first gen consoles that are now, these physical consoles are 8, 9, 10, and in some cases, getting close to almost 11 years old. I'm exaggerating a bit, but these are old machines. And some people are saying, well, after playing for 8 solid hours, my machine started to have crashes. It's like, well, no kidding. Like, these are really old pieces of technology that are not good at running long marathon moments. They've never been good at that. So, like, give it a break, save your game, quit out, power off the machine, just
body break.
Wait, take a long body break, 15, 20, 30 minutes, come back. Like, if you're going to make yourself some supper, highly recommend turn your machine off. Mm-hmm. Don't pause it. Turn your machine, save, turn your machine off, go work on supper. 20 minutes before you're done supper, come back in, boot it back up again, and then there you go. You're back into the game. Don't, for the love of God. Somebody was complaining that they were, playing for 12 hours straight and it started to crash, constantly. It's like, no kidding. So, yeah.
Right. Now that's, to be fair though, I mean, I don't think all of the problems are a result of it being on too long. There's definitely a lot of criticism for the performance on the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One, the Xbox One X. And in fact, they're sitting at very poor user scores on Metacritic right now for that. For that reason.
And I think I read earlier in the comments too that some people have been waiting like quite some time for even like the first patch updates too.
We had one user in particular on our Discord who has particularly bad internet. That who yeah, it's going to take days and days and days to download the patch. It seems like and I think the crux there is that there's no option to just keep playing the current version while the patch is downloading. He's got a disc version of
Unfortunately
it.
not.
He's got a disc version of it. He should be able to just put it in and play it.
You'd think.
That's my opinion. I think that's, and I don't know if that's a PlayStation issue or if that's a CDPR issue, but that's unacceptable. He bought the damn game. He's got the disc copy of it. Yeah, okay. If it takes him several weeks to download the next update, which by the time he gets it, there's going to be another one probably.
More.
It's ridiculous.
Right.
But I mean, anyway, slow internet. I mean, sure, that's not something that the company can necessarily do anything about, because sometimes these patches are very large. But still, he's got the disc.
Even like. Sorry, go ahead.
Just reiterating, he's got the disc.
Oh,
He
yeah.
should be able to play the damn game.
You'd think so, because even on the PC, like there's like that playable point when it's downloading the thing too, right? Or installing it parts ways. But no, I was gonna say, like, even I was playing on the PC and I went for dinner and I decided, I was like, I don't know how long it's gonna take me to make dinner, so I'm just gonna turn the game off. Then when I came back, it was like, hey, you got another update. So like that's also a thing too, is like I try not to leave the game just like running, especially like if I'm gonna be gone for extended periods of time. And then like in that case, it kind of worked out for me when I returned, because then when I came back, did the patch, and then I had like a much smoother ride than I did before supper.
Yeah, fair enough. So yes, I agree with Cyb. I think bugs and crashes are the biggest issue.
To be expected.
Well, they're to be expected, but I think they're the biggest reason why the game is getting a little bit hammered in reviews right now.
Totally.
And I see Notional posted a review earlier that I'm gonna touch on in a sec. But yeah, it is a problem, and the issue with the current gen consoles has raised the question of, is CDPR guilty of some shady marketing? They didn't show us performance on, a base PS4, for example, or a base Xbox One. They showed the sort of they showed the upgraded versions of that, but then like the PlayStation 4, the PS4 Pro, I think it's called, and the Xbox One X, which keeps throwing me off because it's not this. The Xbox One X and the Xbox Series X is like, come on, you didn't realize that was going to get confusing. So it's I mean, that's a very good question, and I know Cyb had to step away here quickly for a second, so I want to get his thoughts on that. So let's talk about what Notional posted in the chat here.
Yes.
Oh, did you want to read that? I've got it here if you want me to.
I got it.
It just
You
says,
got it.
in its current form, the game is subpar and mediocre. I'm at 4 out of 10 right now. It has potential, but it fails in fundamental parts in the FPS, driving, and camera control. And you know what? I think you're not wrong, because I think that's a subjective. I mean, it's a subjective thing. So it's not like I agree with you. I don't think those things bother me necessarily as much as they obviously bother some people. There's a few things, like when you're driving, the camera keeps readjusting to its default position, and I try to angle it a certain way so I can see the road a certain way, and then after like 3 seconds, it goes back to what it was. Stuff like that annoys me. Is it enough to? It's not enough to bring my rating of the game down too much. I hear a kitty.
Yes, Commander wants to play.
Ah, well.
But yeah.
Cat Cameo.
No, it's...
By the way, confirmed, you can pet the cats in Cyberpunk 2077. A lot of people were wondering about that.
So excited. Oh my gosh. The first cat I came across, I pet it so many times. I'm not gonna lie. I sat there for a while. It was pretty great.
And you can also pet the kitty. Just gonna leave that at that. Okay, so as Notional says, it has potential, but it fails in fundamental parts in the FPS, driving, and camera control. I mean, I haven't had too much trouble with the driving personally. So, I mean, I guess it, even though I am playing with keyboard and mouse, so I acknowledge that I'm expecting it to be a little janky because you don't have the steering control you have with a thumbstick when you're using your WASD.
I have only murdered 5 people while driving.
You know,
I
This has
haven't
been-
murdered anybody driving yet,
You
but
know-
I'm playing on a controller.
there was this one side quest I was doing, and I kept dying because there's these two Arasaka combat bots that were like right there ready to take me out if I got too. So I kept dying trying to do this thing. Finally, I realized there's an SUV parked right at the entrance to the place where I'm trying to infiltrate here. So I was like, I'm gonna try something. So I got into it, just crashed into the place, drove over the combat bots, killed them, and got out just before the car exploded. It was kind of an awesome, epic action movie moment, and then
Oh my God.
fought the rest of the guys. It was kind of awesome.
Tell me you got pictures.
And I don't have that. I might have that one recorded. I'll have to look through my files. I've recorded so much stuff that I've lost track now. All right, so what was I saying though? And I agree, like with the FPS components, it's lacking compared to some games.
Yeah, I cannot tell you how badly I need third person.
Well,
So the first day I played this game, I was sick for like 10 hours afterwards.
yeah. Well,
And
I mean,
intense like intense motion sickness. That's, by the way, I totally forgot to finish the bit, but that's why I was speaking in a pirate accent at the beginning of the show. It was not because I was encouraging you to be a pirate. It's because I was struggling to get my land legs back.
yeah. And we
So-
know, like, yes, we know, like, motion sickness is a big issue for you, I know, and
Yeah.
that's definitely made it difficult.
Now,
But
I
that's
can
not
tell you-
that's not what I think Notional's referring to here. I think he's talking about the actual shooter and combat elements.
Yeah. But I just want, yeah. The driving. I want to finish the bit about the driving. So for me, the driving is the best part of the game so far, especially when I'm on a motorbike, because it gives me the chance to actually like have something that's solid on the screen, that's a good fixed object, and suddenly I have no problems with it. So the driving for me has been, I would rate it, as far as like games that I worlds that you do a lot of driving. I think APB Reloaded had a pretty decent driving engine, and this one kind of like it's not better than that, but it's certainly like it's not that it's like it is better than it, but it's not better than it by like 150%. It's like a good improvement overall, pretty great. And as far as driving games, I think that's all you can ask. So yeah, driving for me gets like a 9.5. I don't really see how they could have made it that much better.
And I also I've noticed the vehicles handle very differently. You go from one to another. You go from that little smart car thing to the to a big SUV, like even to a slightly larger car. Like I found every vehicle just handles very differently.
I have not stolen a truck yet, and I kind of want to. It's one of the things that I forgot to actually do. But yeah, the that, and so yeah, so that and a couple of the other car stuff. Like, I'm really excited about it, and I think the game has improved there and has a little bit of room to grow. I'd like to see some racing stuff, and I'd like to see how more of the vehicles handle, because I know I've gotten a smaller subset of it. But yeah,
Islington
but
Girl
moving on
says
to the-
hashtag fishtailing though. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. I agree.
Agreed.
Oh,
Do you use your handbrake? You just got to tap that sucker, and you just careen around corners. Blissful Soul says I use third person for driving. Agreed. The first person driving I found to be nearly impossible.
I couldn't do it. Nope. No, I couldn't get like enough of like a shoulder check on either side, and I'm just like, how am I supposed to see? How am I going to turn? So I was just like, yeah, no, we're just gonna zoom right the heck out. Although I would love to have an option to zoom out even further, just because like I like being able to see a little bit farther around my little vehicle.
Yeah.
But other than that, I've also discovered that people don't care if you jaywalk.
Well, yeah, until you get hit by a car, like the Allington girl was saying
totally-
earlier.
Yeah, I totally got hit. As
When
well.
when that yeah, first time I got hit, I was like, okay. I was like, okay, so it's that kind of game. Okay. They're just gonna plow through me.
Yeah, I think I've been hit by a car twice, and I'm like, well, try not to do that again.
Yeah,
That was
downtown.
that was not fun.
Downtown 6.
Being-
No, when we were talking about something winning 6 out of 9 awards. No. That was completely different topic. We were talking about the Game Awards at that point, and we were talking about a completely different game. Just want to clear that up.
Yeah. There's no awards been given out for Cyberpunk yet.
No, not yet.
So as far as the shooting goes, I did mention how I had that problem, and with the missile launcher, and like, oh, I have a clean shot except for this tiny little object that's a few feet in front of me that's like 1/8 my height. Surely I won't, firing missile, explosion immediately, die, see limbs fly off in other directions, and like, oh, okay, yeah, totally hit that little tiny thing sticking up out of the ground right in front of me. Perfect aim. Otherwise, like that has been frustrating, and I know that because I've been doing this very slow sniper. It's the only way I can play the game. Very slow sniping, where like trying to do it as silenced and as like takedowny as I can, like one at a time. I gotta say the tech rifle is amazing. It's not silent, but oh my lord, that thing's super fun.
It is pretty sweet, yeah.
But occasionally I do run into the case where you're peeking around a corner and you're trying to take a shot, and you're like, perfect headshot, boom, and like you see the impact on an invisible wall, like a foot and a half out from the existing wall. That has happened on more than one occasion. It's not common, but it does happen from time to time, and it does certainly like destroy my perfect, perfectly like I've done I've cleared the whole area except for this last person, and I'm going to take the headshot, and that's going to be that, and then we're going to be done, and it was it's going to be great, and then you line up the shot and you miss, and the alarm goes off, and you ruin the thing, and I'm like, it's really frustrating, but it doesn't happen that often. So I've got to give the shooting basically like an 8 out of 10, because as far as like FPSs go, which I do not play a lot of them, I think it's pretty darn good for what it is, and considering that is not what they primarily made it to be, I think it's pretty decent. I do wish that they again had done some other stuff. So yeah, frustrating, annoying, difficult, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
All right, Moontag. What are your thoughts on these things so far?
It's like, well, like I've said, the focus is like mainly on the story, so like I am giving it like a fair, well, I don't know, fair amount of grace as far as like any bugs I encounter, because like really I'm trying to see what they're aiming for, because like I already understand that it is going to be buggy, and so it doesn't really bother me that much. Although I did have an incident where I was loading into an elevator, and then I decided to save right after that autosave into a manual save, and then I sat there in the elevator and it wasn't moving, so it like glitched out on me, and I was very confused for a minute or so, and I was like, wow, this is a really long elevator ride. But no. Like I really like the voice acting. I really like just eavesdropping on the NPCs and like just running around town like that. That's a lot of what I've been lost doing, is because like I'm trying to see like what I can interact with and like what I can pick up and stuff. And like kind of what sort of jobs or missions or like interactables are like kind of in the area. Like I got lost in Kabuki Market for like hours just because I'm like running around and like reading all the things and like looking at all the signs and like trying to talk to the people and getting told off here and there and like just seeing the different reactions when I change my clothes.
So you do get reactions from that.
A little bit, because like I was dressed in some like really personally terrible taste outfit. I had like the sports shorts and like this big like red jacket with like the padded arms and like this baseball cap that like totally messed up my hair, because I've noticed that when you wear different hat styles, it comes with a certain preset hairstyle as well. And I was like, that's interesting. So yeah, there was that.
Oh, okay.
And then I changed to a really fancy dress. And then I got like suddenly like really nice reception. I was like, huh, interesting.
Really? Okay. Because we had someone commenting in the on our server that they were expecting NPCs to react to the way you were dressed, etc., and it wasn't happening. And I hadn't really. That's not something I've really paid attention to, because I'm kind of more about just.
I had
blasting
more
through
people
the
like
quests.
tell me to bugger off. I think it may also depend on the NPC too, because I started trying to talk to like just different types of NPCs, and like the ones that look like more street like, they're like usually a little bit more like off-putting. They're like, hey, what do you want? What are you looking at? Or like I tried to talk to this really hot girl in this like just bodycon latex dress, and she had like that makeup, that like the bar that went across her eyes, and like really cool hair, and I was like, hi. She's like, what are you looking at? Keep strutting on. And I was like, I want to be your friend.
That's funny.
I do wish that the NPCs had a little bit more like back and forth to them. I do kind of wish that original rumor that we'd heard that you could just walk up to anybody on the street and be like, "Hey, want to party?" I really wish that had been in the game, because it's so like. I wish it was a system in which you could talk to an NPC and like convince them to be your friend and get their details, and then have them as like this, like not a full companion, but just have them be able to like come out and hang out at your place. Because
I
then
would
you
love
could
to ask them to go like party at the club. Like, would you not love to go to Lizzie's together with a whole posse of people?
Yeah, and I think that's a really good idea, and it's a really good concept. So I have two notes on this. One, it's like, so I think the clothing is tied to the rarity that you're using, because I was walking around in a bunch of white and gray gear, and everybody was like, mocking me and being rude. Then I tried running around naked, and they didn't really seem to have any kind of like, they had zero comment about my clothes, which was kind of weird. And then I put on a bunch of legendary, it's not a bunch. I had a legendary pair of pants that dropped, and then I had a couple other purples, and I threw them all on. And even though it was mismatched, suddenly people were like, "Hey, I love the duds, man! Ooh, wow, you look cool!" And I'm like, I bet it's tied to the rarity. I bet if you, I bet if you're walking around with like a number of like high value clothing pieces, suddenly everybody's like, "Wow, that's so cool."
I think that's what happened as well.
I don't like that it's hard. It appears to be hard. Like I haven't found a way to upgrade an item from blue to green, or sorry, from green to blue, and then blue to purple, and then purple to legendary. I haven't seen that. I'm really hoping that there is. I know there's recipes, but I really want there to be a way to like upgrade certain pieces of items. And also, I don't know if this is a thing or not, I found several invisible pieces of clothing. So clothing where you put it on and there's no model for it at all. I don't know if this is a missing model or if this was an intentional, so that you had a way of like basically like hiding certain clothing bits. I hope that's a thing. I hope that's something that they thought about. I hope that I didn't just luck out and get a buggy item that's invisible.
It might have been a bug in the might have been a bug in the inventory screen, because that happened to me one time where I put on a pair of pants and nothing happened. All that happened was
that's a different bug. So
no, like it was invisible, but my V's junk disappeared.
So, yes, no, I'm telling. Let me finish. That is a different bug. So you can go to your inventory screen if you want to make something disappear. You equip that slot over and over and over again, really, really fast. and you will bug it out. So you'll either bug it out and you'll swap the appearance for another item in your inventory, or you can bug it out to the point where V is then not wearing that item when you go back out into the world.
Oh, gotcha.
So,
yeah.
So that's the bug for that. Different than having an item, receiving a shirt or a pair of pants or a pair of boots or something like that, and instead of seeing the model on the little icon picture in your inventory, it's just blank. There's nothing there. So it's not that there's a shirt and then you put on the shirt and it's invisible. No, I picked up loot that has no icon at all. I put that icon on, I equip that thing, and that slot is now empty.
Very strange.
So that's what I mean by, like, I'm hoping that they put in several items into the game that just don't necessarily exist, and so you can use those to build an outfit where you're like, I just want this piece to be invisible. You know, I'm wearing an overshirt. I don't want an undershirt, and put it on. Poof, there you go. Then that's a particular style that you're going for, and you don't necessarily get penalized for it. Hide your helmet, that kind of thing. Like that. That's stuff that I hope is in the game because I like that idea. I really like that concept, and I really hope that they stick with that because style. I don't know if you guys know this, but style is everything. On the just quickly, one more thing on the front of like talking to NPCs, I was so happy. I walked over and I saw a bunch of people dancing with some gang members, and I was like, "What's this?" And I carefully approached. I don't want to disrupt the party, guys. I just want to like see what's going on. Why is everybody dancing? And they're all dancing. I'm like, oh, okay. I got closer and closer and realized, oh, they're not going to turn hostile on me. Oh, everything's great. And there were so many people there, and there was about 20 to 25 NPCs there, all dancing in a big circle around a car. There was no music, but I think the music in the car was supposed to be playing. But yeah, they were all sitting there dancing, and there was a whole bunch of dances, and I'm like, I wonder if I can dance. So I walked up to some of the NPCs and I was trying to like push buttons, see if I could dance. No, but then I started getting some like interesting like back and forth with some of the people there, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I talked to this lady over here, then I talked to this guy over here, and then I turned around and there was a guy standing with his back a little bit towards me, and I was like, hey buddy, how are you? And I suddenly brought my arm around him, and I went, oh no, I'm sorry, press F. And I snapped his neck in front of everybody. And I'm like, I totally didn't mean to do that, guy. It just went so bad so quickly. It's like I wrapped my arm around the guy, and they're all like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, my God, ah! And everybody started running. I'm like, no, I didn't mean to. I'm going to let him go. See, I'm going to let him. And snapped his neck, fell down, and I'm like, everybody suddenly pulled out guns, and they were starting to shoot at me. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to reload that. And that never happened.
It's a bad dream coming to life. So I just want to kind of recenter the conversation here. There's so many good comments coming in. We're not going to be able to read them all, unfortunately, obviously, and so much in our coming in through the Discord server. So we're trying to touch on as many of your comments as possible. It just unfortunately, it's gotten overwhelming. But let's talk about, while we're on the topic of NPCs, let's just talk about the world in general. Let's talk about the level of immersion. Let's talk about the environment, and let's talk about the city. Is it a world? It's a world that truly, as I was playing it, the world just feels alive on a level that I've never experienced in an open world game before. Mm-hmm. There's so many NPCs. They move in such a lifelike manner. They occasionally drive like idiots, but is the world truly alive, or is it all just backdrop? This is one question that I've seen discussed. Is there really an AI to these NPCs, or are they just dumb as bricks walking in a straight line? Now, for some...
Yes. The answer to that is yes, they are dumb as bricks, and they are walking. I have followed certain NPCs that I was like, ooh, you look cool, or like, hey, I'm just going to follow you for like 15 minutes. And sometimes they just do phase out of reality, or sometimes they just keep on walking. This is how I found my first legendary, actually. I started following this one person, and I was like, oh, I really like their outfit. I'm just going to follow them and see where this takes me. And they just kept on walking. And they walked 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 until they got to basically the city limits, where I started getting the warning of like, you can't turn around, blah blah blah, and it forced my screen to like move. And I went to look back at the NPC that I had been following because I really liked. It wasn't being weird, guys. I liked their design, and I just wanted to like, hey, say hi. Yeah. Anyways, they had vanished, and I looked over and instead I saw a police vehicle take off from a nearby lot. And I was like, huh, well, that's interesting. So I walked over to the lot and found out that this is like really on the outskirts, still in that first area where you're kind of locked into. And I walked out there and I went, wow, there's a bunch of bodies out here. And I saw this like dark orangish, kind of reddish like icon sitting on one of the bodies. So I ran over to it. Legendary pair of pants from who I believe was Night City's financial guy. And there was this lore and story around it where basically like he was trying to do some stuff, and no big spoilers, but it obviously backfired. So also one of those very fancy 6-wheeled cars, and picked that up, drove around with that for quite a while. It didn't disappear either. Like I would go on a mission, I would do a mission, then I would come back, and the car was sitting in the parking lot still. So very interesting. I've asked a couple people to see if they could find it here. I'm gonna if you pop on Discord, let me know. I will pop it into one of the channels there, the screenshot of like where exactly this was. I want to know if everybody else finds what they find there, if they find the exact same thing, or if they find a legendary there. Because this is, again, I was really shocked because I was only like level 7 at the time. I was like, wow, how did I get a legendary from a loot drop at this thing? Because I've still seen like I've only gotten like 4 epics at this time. And so it was kind of weird. So very cool, very interesting. But yeah, as far as the life of the NPCs and the logic of them, I don't think most of them have that.
Yeah, but that's right now we're talking about your basic crowd NPCs, the ones that are used to populate the streets. There's a completely separate class of NPCs that are, of course, your interactable characters, the ones you can talk to, the ones who will attack you if you, like there's your guard class, like there's the ones that will turn hostile and fight you if you are, if you get on their bad side. Not all of those are people you can talk to, but they are a different class from just the general population NPCs that walk around. Those ones will just cower if there's combat going on. So there's different classes of NPCs. And so when we're talking about the AI that governs the NPCs, we also have to talk about which NPCs we're talking about. But there's a certain amount of criticism that's been leveled here. Like, was the talk about AI in all the marketing for this game, was it overselling, or was it downright wrong? Like, was it a downright false advertising?
I don't think that they're as lively as the NPCs that you have in Skyrim. Those NPCs, they have jobs, they have tasks, they busy themselves, they do stuff. There's other games that use that same kind of like self-busy work thing. It's definitely not as deep or as structured as, say, something like one of my personal favorites, which would be the story. I believe it was called Storybricks, where they build NPCs through a series of like things that make them unique in that they all have these different desires, and they find ways to like work towards those desires. So like, NPC needs to eat 6 hours a day. Not 6 hours a day. Once every 6 hours during the daytime, and then they need to sleep, and then they need to do all this other stuff. So they actively go looking for solutions to these problems. And you get some really interesting scenarios that happens, especially when NPC wants, gold, and they look around and there's nobody who has gold except for that zombie way over there. So they want to go and get that gold, but they understand that zombie wants brains, and that they have the brains, and that they are not willing to part with those brains. So you get some really funny interactions on like NPCs doing actual living stuff. That's really the next gen in the way of AI tech.
I
We
wonder.
don't have that here in any way, shape, or form. They don't even, like, the NPCs don't even self-busy themselves, right? Like, you don't see an NPC come out of a building, go over to a machine, pick up, some food and a drink, and then head back to their apartment. You don't see that. But I think that potential is there, and
The potential, I think, is definitely there, but we have to also remember this is a previous gen game. As of a few weeks ago, when the Xbox, when the new Xbox and PlayStation came out, that's the real start of the current gen, which we have been for most of Cyberpunk's development. That was next gen, and we were talking about Cyberpunk 2077 as a current gen game. Now it's a previous gen game, so we do have to keep that in mind. And when we talk about the Skyrim AI, where they have these essentially handcrafted routines that the NPCs go through, we're talking about way fewer NPCs, and so there's that trade-off too. You walk down the street of Cyberpunk 2077. There's hundreds of NPCs
literally
around.
Hundreds, yes, thousands sometimes. I swear.
So the question being, do we want that, or do we want like 10 NPCs on the street, each doing more sophisticated behaviors? Now, I did notice things like, I was in Misty's shop talking to her about something, and I turn around and this dude just comes strolling in through the door and starts browsing. And he looks around for a bit, and then he walked out and kept walking down the street. So there is stuff like that goes on that just adds these little details and feelings of life. Now, I can't walk up to him and have a meaningful conversation. I don't think he actually buys something that affects Misty's inventory. But it certainly, the world feels alive. And I think, like, there's that trade-off. How much of it was lofty expectations, and how much of it was CDPR overselling? And I think that's a debate we may have for a while, because they might say something like, we've got these AI routines that control NPCs, but they don't go into detail about what that means, and so we assume it means some grand, lofty, next-gen thing, and it's not necessarily. I think my feeling on it is they've really pushed the limit as far as what the previous gen can do, and who knows what we'll see in their next game. If they use the same, let's say, we don't know, this is purely hypothetical, but in 3 years they come out with Cyberpunk 2078 using the same engine, new game, and they've really cranked it up to push the limits of the current gen technology. I think we could see stuff like that. I think we could see NPCs that you could follow around for a day, and they get up in the morning, they have their morning routine, and then they go to work, they go for lunch at noon, and et cetera, et cetera. Potentially, you could have that kind of a thing. But I think there's always trade-offs. There's always trade-offs. Like, how many more years did we want this game to be delayed by? That's another question.
Well, and also, like, as we can tell, already there's been a lot of things that have been removed. For example, the companion thing that basically was removed because I don't think this game can hold much more stuff in it and still be functional on those base consoles. And this is where I really wish that they had said, just when you guys were talking about the console thing earlier, I really wish they had said, no, this game is not designed for the base models. You'll have to have a Pro or the next gen version or something like that. We're sorry, but that's it's designed for that. Now, it's still going to function, but it will not be a smooth experience. I kind of wish that they had said that, but in all honesty, let's face it, they're not gonna come out and actually say that. They're gonna be like,
yeah, well,
corporate wouldn't allow them, no corporation. No, I don't mean corporate from their perspective, but like, Microsoft and Sony would not have allowed them to come out and say, yeah, so these consoles are garbage. Whatever you do, don't play our game on these consoles because they're garbage.
Yeah.
Which is what they would have basically had to have admitted to.
I want to put, because this comment here from Timur Hafiz saying, I'm on PS5. At most, I've seen 40-ish NPCs on the street in any one area, not hundreds. Well, something I have noticed, reading tons of comments and reviews about this on our server, here in the chat, and various places, is that your experience is drastically affected by the platform and the level of the platform that you're playing on. If you're playing on a high-end PC, you're having a very different experience than you're having playing on a base PS4 or even a PS5, I think.
Well, I mean, there's people who are playing with a 1080 or a 1060, and they're having a great time still.
Well, I think, and it doesn't mean that it's not having a great time, but there's people reporting tons of bugs that I've never seen. Like I've seen some bugs in the game, but they're mostly rather amusing graphical things. There's been 2 or 3 times where it's actually affected gameplay, like where an NPC was shooting at me, got stuck in some stairs, and then was shooting at me, and I couldn't shoot back. Like, there's only a couple of times where the bugs, and there are bugs. Like, and we've pointed out a bunch of them. There's bugs, there's glitches, but bottom line that's.
I had a guy who was phased into the wall. I've only had that happen once. He was phased into the wall, and I couldn't hit him directly. But it wasn't like a deep wall; it was like a thin wall between things, and like normal shot didn't work. So I pulled out my tech rifle that shoots through walls, and I hit him in the head. And they're like, "Well, that worked." And he also got free of the wall. I have had that bug also happen when you're moving bodies around and you're trying to lay them down. Occasionally I'll lay them down. I'll go to lay them down. And I'm like, all right, this body down here. I did not want to hurt this guy. He's just a regular guy doing his job. I'm just going to lay him down here. Explosion of blood and guts everywhere. And I'm like, what happened? And I look up and he's dangling from the ceiling. And I'm like, oh, I'm sure he'll be fine. Right. But then if you save and load the game, then usually he's on the floor properly and all the blood guts are gone. So it's like, oh, okay. I see. Again, I've only had that happen a handful of times. So
yeah. So I don't want to the bugs are very the bugs are very memorable when they happen. So I mean I don't want to hammer them too much and give people the impression that this is the buggiest game that's ever existed. It's by far not
even close. And again, I would stress. I know that one of the reviewers who reviewed this game early, who talked about all the bugs they found, did not update their drivers, did not update their Windows, and had paused it overnight for 12 hours and then go back to it and then continue to play. So, and they're like, so many complaints. So I want to kind of get to this topic next here, where yes, there are a lot of very bad people who are reviewing this game maliciously and doing so, or just using bad tactics, like the tactic of taking the game without its day one patch, without any of the existing patches, pulling up pre-release footage and saying, look at all the bugs, guys. I had so many of these bugs. I've called it out before. Every time it's happened, I've called it out before. There's another game that I really don't like those creators of that game. I think they're bigots, and I really don't like them. This is not a game that it's not a game you've heard of. This is a game that I have access to because of who, stuff. I do not like these people. And their game is a very buggy mess because it's in pre-alpha. I would never roast that company for having a buggy experience in a pre-alpha experience. But I find other reviewers, do that all the time if it fits their needs.
Fair enough. And I think we should just leave it at that. Personally, because I think we touched on this on the previous podcast. Plus, I think we've hammered the bugs enough. Personally, yeah. I mean some are saying these are Bethesda level bugs. Well, potentially. There's there's bugs in the game. Let's put it that way. There are bugs, and here's hoping that CDPR gets in there and fixes a bunch of stuff and doesn't rely on modders to do that. That's my hope. Personally, I mean, it doesn't bother me all that much now. I realize that because of the platform I'm playing on, it's not affecting my gameplay all that much. So I don't want to come across as unsympathetic. If the bugs are ruining your experience, then I mean, I realize that may be the case for some people. So definitely not trying to be insensitive to that. But let's put the bugs aside for a minute and see if I want to talk about, was it worth the hype? Did they nail it in terms of what they were trying to accomplish? Bugs aside, did they nail the city, the atmosphere, the storytelling in this game? And I feel like there are some things that I can be more critical of. Like, I did find the combat mechanics, I did find a little bit, it wasn't quite where I wanted them to be. But at the same time, I wasn't expecting I wasn't expecting it to be because it's an RPG with combat. It's not a first person shooter. So we've been saying that for years. This is an RPG with shooting mechanics. I think they're decent. They're not like they're not like Doom Eternal, which I just finished. But that game is entirely combat, and they nailed the combat mechanics. They were fantastic. And so I had just finished that game. Coming from that, the really fast-paced, tons of movement options, and really you can do all this crazy stuff. To this, I had to kind of get my brain into a different mode.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like adjust. Like for this, like I just went through a mission where I was like trying to be super stealthy, and then realized that I didn't invest enough into opening doors, and so I was just like, okay, I'm like gonna have to go through this way then. But it was really interesting having the challenge of trying to sneakily take everybody down rather than like going in with like both guns blaring kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely like a little bit more difficult battle mechanic when I actually did come to shooty shoots with any of the baddies in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so like it definitely made me want to choose the more stealthy route just so I didn't have to go through that much difficulty with the aiming, because like the aiming I find is like I'm not too good at it yet. I need a little bit more time. Plus, like I want to find like a sniper rifle. Right now, I only have an assault rifle, a pistol, a shotgun, and that's like still too close quarters for me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've had this huge problem of trying to find an actual like the tech sniper rifle. Great, I had that fairly early on, but just a regular sniper rifle. As far as I can tell, there's a 50 cal. I'm talking like base model. I know there's some specific weapons that you can get from certain quests and activities, but like just a generic sniper rifle. I think there's only so far I've only encountered the 50 cal. I managed to get a recipe for that one, and it seems nice. Then there's the precision rifle, which seems to act as a decently good sniper rifle, but it's very loud, doesn't seem to have a muzzle on most of them. 50 cals don't seem to spawn in with a lot of muzzles. And there's a handful of like rifles, which you can tweak to be maybe a little bit more of a sniper rifle, but also having some issues with those. So I'm like, ew, this is kind of annoying, and it is. It's very, very much annoying that I haven't been able to find the weapon that I wanted to have from the get-go. But I do have a shotgun now that I made non-lethal, so that's always fun, running in and gunning everybody. And for those of you wondering, yes, I routinely will go into a mission, knock out everybody through either the shotgun or like coming up behind them and sneaking up behind them, taking them down, completely alive, leave them all alive, and then arrange them in a big circle and put down little drinks and snacks beside each of them as I leave. So yes, I have been able to do that.
So they
Side
have
tea parties are very much a thing, and they'll wake up and they'll go, "What the hell? What?
that's
Did
funny.
somebody
That's
leave
very funny. You should.
snacks tonight?"
You need to make a video of that. But
For snap.
yeah. Anyway, so combat. Let's put so that's the combat, and I want to read. There was a comment here I wanted to read. So Protato911 says, Doom Eternal is a game of focus. They try to do one thing, and that one thing extremely well. Cyberpunk 2077 is a kitchen sink game. They try to do a lot of things well enough. I think there's some truth to that.
I would say the story is top notch. I mean, I just played through the opening, like the big event between Act 1 and Act 2, and I have to say the story was very gripping.
Oh, it was good, yeah.
The mission was really good story-wise, and the expressions, oh my god, I was trapped inside a small cubby space as we were watching some crazy stuff happen, and I looked over at Jackie, and his face, I took a picture of it. It was just like he was like, oh, like he was like, one step away from doing number 2 in his pants. It was like his face just said 1,000 words, and I was like, wow, okay, this is really good, and this has come a really long way.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and so let's talk about like what Benny Bronco's saying here. Did the game live up to the hype as RPG? Because let's not forget that is what this game was trying to be, an RPG. So, what are the key elements of an RPG? You've got the story, you've got customization, you've got, all of these different things, choices. Now, there's a lot to it, but there's, I agree that they nailed the story. Mm-hmm. And there's been some complaints about side quests. Here's the thing: as far as how how in depth the side quests are, I'm wondering if some of the side quests are getting bundled into the main quests in the journal. Because I agree, like the side quests seem to be random, like go here, fight, get thing, leave. There's a variety of them. There's, sabotage, there's recon, there's, go and find this thing, there's go rescue this person. The stories behind them are interesting, but, I'm talking about like the jobs, the gigs that the fixers give you, those kinds of things. They're good and all, but they're not like story heavy. But right now I've got three things going on in my main quests area. And I'm wondering if it's actually that one of them is the main quest and 2 of them are side quests, but they're just so involved and they interact so heavily with the main quest that they just categorize them under main quests. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm wondering right now. Because they're all interrelated. And I couldn't tell you which one is the distinct main. Well, I mean, there's your one primary goal. There's your inciting incident, and then there's your goal, which I won't get into because that's getting into spoiler territory. But there's the thing that you realize you have to accomplish. And, you've got to do all kinds of different things to get there. But then, I feel like I actually have, when I look at my main quests menu, I feel like I'm actually looking at 1 main quest and 2 side quests rather than 3 main quests. You know what I mean? But the side quests are so involved that they're actually almost up to the level of being a main quest. Anyway, I think that a lot of people, it almost seems to be universal that people are praising the story. I haven't seen any negative comments about the story.
Mm-hmm. So, I like, even when I was going in the elevator to my home base there, I got caught by like one of the talk shows and like just like learning like kind of like more lore through just listening to this random thing that just popped up on the TV, right? It's pretty great.
Exactly. The gig system, with the schedule saying with the... And this is something that a few other people commented on too on our Discord. The phone constantly ringing and you getting gigs and side jobs thrown at you constantly, I do find is a bit of sensory and information overload, sensory overload, things constantly getting thrown at you. Definitely, they could definitely stand to improve a little bit on that. Give you more options for filtering them out. Maybe, getting text messages on your phone instead of a call that you don't have a choice but answer. Like it answers the call for you. Like there's the window comes up that says, here, answer this call from so and so. If you don't answer it, it answers it for you. Like, what is with that?
Right.
Yeah, I agree, Flare Charger. For gigs, they should just send you texts and you can call them if you want more information. They send you most of the info by text anyway, so it's... So there is that. There's quality of life things that they need to iron out. No question. But story, they nailed. And I'm going to say interactions with NPCs are a step, 2 or 3 steps up from any other game that I've played in depth. Like,
And I love all the diversity in the types of NPCs you see as well.
oh yeah,
One of the comments I remember we've seen before about the kind of body selection models for the V character is well, we're limited to the one body type for each male, female, right? But with the NPCs, at least there's a wider range that you can see through there, not only in body type, but even in age. You see some older, some younger people, and
yeah, exactly. And I wonder why. That's a very good question, and I think one point of criticism is, why are there so few customization options, even for eye color? There was just very few. There's 9 colors, and then you can have those same colors with bloodshot instead of regular, and then there's all the wacky ones. But I was like, they could have done way more with this. Same with tattoo designs.
This is something that happens in every open world game, and for the most part, the modders will fix it.
Right, but
I understand that they're I don't understand why they can't do 400 different eye colors. It doesn't seem like it's that hard to do, especially once a modder has their hands on the game for a week and they come out with with a functional kit of several thousand. How? Why? It's the same thing with hair color. Why is the hair color so limited? Yes, they have some cool concepts and effects and all that kind of stuff, but why can't I pick from a color wheel of my hair? I just don't understand why that's not a thing. And that's really annoying because I'm stuck with a hair color that I really do not like right now. And it's come on, I want an actual kit of this stuff. Why is this so pathetically small in its list? So, yeah, there's that.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
I
think
I honestly don't know what the answer to this is because it doesn't make any sense.
And I've heard people say the same about the clothing. You see all of this crazy clothing that NPCs are wearing, but it doesn't seem is within your grasp.
No, the first clothing store I went to was a street stall, and I was like, well, at least it's cheap.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Yeah, the selection in clothing store, and I don't know if it'll unlock more as you level up. There's some things you can't buy until you have enough street cred, which is interesting. But okay, I guess that makes sense in Cyberpunk. It's wait, you're not going to sell me that? I'm offering you money for it, and you're not going to give it to me because I don't have enough street cred, but okay, whatever. Yeah, could have more customization options. Let's put it that way. It had
again, the modders will fix this. They will find every single piece of clothing that's in the game, and they will make every single one of those available for you, the player. And then on top of that,
yeah, if you're playing on PC, they will. Console folks, not going to have that option unless they bring some sort of modding solution to the new consoles. But that's only, we got to remember that's only a solution for those of us who are on PC. Plus, I have an issue with saying the modders will fix it. Modders shouldn't have to fix anything. Modders should be
Well,
able to...
no, but you can't. In some cases, you can't pay people to create the amount of content that modders can create. Like the amount of like customization. Like when a modder, and they will, when they come out with exotic types for body replacements and skin. So we're talking, cat ears, tails,
yeah, but that's
faces,
adding things.
Which there are pictures of in the game. You can see pictures of this stuff. There's a very alien-looking fellow, and it's like some kind of like body mod.
Yeah, but that's talking about what I say. That's what modding should be when they're adding things. But just to unlock the options that are already in the game for us in the character creator.
Well, some of that stuff is not necessarily like again, the hair. Yes, that should be in the hairs and eyes. I don't see why those are not. Why that's not a long list of easy stuff, because it's not hard to do those things. It may be difficult, or it may result in a lot of clipping to do certain outfits that are you see on a lot of NPCs, but they just don't functionally look good when they're on the player character, and the player character is doing all of the stuff that the player character does. Now, again, you don't see it, so it's it shouldn't be that much of an issue. But I can understand why developers would not do that, because that is not something that developers are supposed to be tasked with in comparison. So,
okay. Anyway, bottom line, as far as the base game modders aside, I would give the customization options only about a 5.5 out of 10. I was expecting more. I wasn't expecting the world on I wasn't expecting the world on a silver plate, but I was expecting more for that, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Now, as far as the actual functional customization, like your stats and things, I think your stats, your perks, your skills, I think it's at an acceptable level for me. It's about where I like it in terms of complexity. I think there are definitely people who want a deeper system. So it's, again, a lot of this is going to be subjective. I'm happy with where it's at in that perspective, but yeah, as far as the visual customization, I was hoping for more. Mm-hmm. But the world atmosphere, I think they nailed the Cyberpunk atmosphere.
Yep.
And
atmosphere is 10 out of 10 for sure.
I love exploring different parts of the city and just like standing in like some corner or like some like little marketplace and just like listening to the stuff around me, like hearing all the city sounds.
Yeah. Just walking through the city or driving through the city is just an amazing experience. And you can just walk, and there's stuff going on all around you, and there's been all kinds of moments, just memorable moments already. Like just walking by and accidentally coming across like an illegal deal that's going down, and then these dudes try to jump you. And then, so you waste them all, and then, or there's a moment where the GPS was like leading me on this convoluted route to somewhere, and I was like, wait a minute, if I just jump over this fence and jump onto that roof, it looks like I'll be right where I'm supposed to be. So I did that and skipped like a couple minutes of walking. It's like just moments like that, or where, I won't spoil what the quest is, but there's this point where you're trying to get in to see this Ripper Doc, and it's a quest item, or it's a quest plot point. I'm like, but there's like all these people waiting to get in ahead of you, and I'm like, well, screw this. And you have the option to like sit down and talk to them and reason with them and explain why you need to go in first. I'm like, no. So I just hop out on a balcony and like climb around and go in through the window. I'm like, hey, Doc, listen up. Just
well done.
So I had
there's just some awesome moments that I've had already that just, I'm like, this is great gameplay. Go ahead, son. Mm-hmm.
So this is something that I've had, like you were saying, you see something on the map and you're like, well, gee, just like in real life, if I drove through this guy's one, yard and then through a back alley and then like drove over that popsicle stand, then like I'd be there already. So why don't I just do that? That just seems to make more sense. Legally, of course, only legally.
But that's the thing. Like in the game, like in real life, you wouldn't do that, but in the game, you're like, screw it. Just like when I'm driving, I like scrape against vehicles and like run red lights, like stuff I don't do in real life. But in the game, it's
Traffic
just
laws
like
have nothing on me.
I don't have time to stop for red lights. Give me a break, man.
Don't tell me what to do.
I gotta go scan some.
Don't you know who I am?
Yeah.
I'm Cave Johnson. You know.
Sunglare asks, how do you raise the athletics tree? You do athletic stuff.
You run and jump. You run and jump, and the other way that you get it a high is you double dash. Like when you're running down the street or when you're just like walking, like use the double dash as often as you can. Just like double dash right, double dash left, double dash right, double dash left. And you will be surprised at how much XP you rack up for that. It is definitely like it's tied to running. It's tied to I got it pretty high just by I've been watching a lot of TV and stuff like that, and I found out that because of motion sickness, I can't like if I spend too much time focusing on it, I get retardedly sick, and then I can't play, and then I got to go lay down for like 6 hours, and it's no fun. It's like being on a cruise and realizing that you're incredibly prone to motion sickness and seasickness, and you spend the entirety of your vacation in a room crying because you can't be out eating anything. It really, really, really sucks. Again, I cannot wait for the third person mod because this game is painful for me to play. It is physically painful to play. It makes me ill. It makes me sick, and I have to stick with it because I like the game enough. Right now, I like the game enough that even after I finish it, I'm still going to keep it on, and I'm going to still be playing with it. I mean, not just for the channel, but for the fact that I actually like it. But I desperately need like some kind of a third person mod because I can't. But at any rate, I tried driving and not really paying attention to the screen, and I got a 5-star rating because apparently I drove through an entire group of people. So yeah, apparently not good to do that. So I would instead just kind of like auto run while I'm watching my other monitor, and then whenever I like realize that my frame on the other frame out of the corner of my eye is no longer moving, and I assume that I've been stuck or I've hit something or something like that, I can't really get anywhere. That's when I'll be like, okay, I'll switch back over and refocus there. So that's how I've been getting around that, and it has been it's still been a problem. It's still been difficult. It's not fun to try to play a game like this, especially one that you've been wanting and hoping and crossing your fingers for so long, and it's a physical pain. Now I finally think I understand what smokers feel like. So yeah. I don't know if that joke.
I don't get it, but anyway.
Because they hurt themselves for the thing that they love.
I think that's very different. But anyway, the one other thing I want to talk about as far as the RPG mechanics is the dialogue and the choices. Now, the dialogue scenes, as I said, I think they're just brilliant. First of all, the writing is really good, and the acting is really good. Mm-hmm. The animations, the character animations, the facial animations, the subtle things, the Jolly implementation is fantastic. Like, it's a step up. I give it an 11 out of 10 because I knew it was going to be good, but it was way above what I was expecting. Like when you're talking to any NPC, you're actually talking to, like, it feels like you're really talking to them. It feels like you're talking to a person. It's not just some blank choice being made. But also, there's, you can walk around the room. You can look at stuff. While you're engaged in conversation, you can be looting things. You can be doing other stuff. I mean, the freedom that they give with that is really, really cool. There's a few places where they make you sit down and focus on the conversation, but the conversations are really engaging. If you aren't terribly interested in it, there's always that fast forward button. Gee,
I gotta say that for somebody who autistic, right, real hard time maintaining eye contact. It is again physically painful for me. My siblings used to torture me by tying me to a chair and then forcing me to look at them in the eye. Like this was a thing that my siblings used to do to torture me. So again, forcing the game for like great conversations, really great facial animations, all that kind of stuff. I can't really enjoy it as much as I think other people do, but I enjoy it on a
but you can look away though. Like you can.
But well, yes, in a lot of them I can look away, and that's quite handy. But it's like I do feel like I'm like, oh, that's probably really rude. And I'm like, wait a second, it's a game. I did something yesterday. You say what? Go ahead.
I was gonna say you could just it's an RPG, man. You can be role playing as yourself.
which is apparently something that these professional reviewers don't understand. And I gotta say, like, some of the complaints about this game is like, I don't really know what V's motivation is. It's like,
whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, it's you're playing whatever thing. Well, I don't. What do they feel like they're doing? It's like you're playing the role. It's up for you to decide.
Yeah, exactly. RPG, role playing game. This is not Doom. This is not an FPS where you have a pre-established goal in mind. This is an RPG, and I think
I found it funny. I found it funny because somebody was complaining about the game, and they said the stupidest thing I've ever. Okay, not the stupidest. No, it's probably the stupidest thing I've ever heard a game reviewer say. They said, I saw, I don't like how the game forces you to do stuff. Like, I was just like walking down the street and I saw this one faction that they really don't like, that they really hate, that they want to, be destroyed in every kind of idea ever possible. And they're like, I saw this faction, and the game was like, maybe help these people out. And I was like, or not. I'm just gonna walk away and just ignore them. Like, God, I can't believe the game makes you do that. No, the game just presented you with a choice that you acted upon in the style of your character acting upon that in the way that you're conveying that character through you. That's exactly what a role-playing game is supposed to do. Like I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. It's like the reviewer's like, oh yeah, I really didn't like this one faction, so I didn't want to help them out. I found it insulting that the game suggested that I do. But you had the ability to walk away.
Right.
Yeah, you can.
Choosing to walk away is still making a choice.
And that's reflected in the one thing that I don't. One of my qualms is they don't have a faction system, like a faction friendliness system. I really wish that they had that. I really wish that they gave me the ability to work towards being in a friendly state with certain factions. I understand that due to the way that they've structured the quests and the stories that that's not really possible, but I think that it can be in the future. And I have had issues where you're supposed to like help somebody out and they like a faction out. There's one faction in the game that you can help out in certain circumstances and they won't become hostile to you when you butt in. So I know that the groundwork is there, and I know that in the future this can work out. And again, modders can add this in, but I think it's probably a very it's not a resource intense system, but it is a system that does consume some resources. So again, I understand why they didn't add it in the base model, but I'm really looking forward to to that. Who knows? Maybe one of the expansions will feature a gang system that we can level up and either take part in other gangs or kind of like
that would be very cool.
Get in with them. Yeah, it would be very, very cool because I'm like, at least right now, as far as I've gotten in the game, I have not found a way to communicate with any of the gang members at all, and in any of the situations. And I really, 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 really wish that I could.
Except for named NPCs that you get that have predetermined interactions. That's the thing. They were going for a handcrafted experience with all of the all the quests. You're not getting a Watch Dogs Legion kind of AI generated repeat quests with, a bunch of characters voiced by the same actor and things like that. You're getting handcrafted experiences. I think they nailed that. I have been so engaged in some of the conversations where I was like, okay, this is going to be boring, and no, it wasn't. It was like super. Just, I have never enjoyed NPC interactions nearly as much in any other game, I don't think, because they're so lifelike and the writing is so well done. That's where I think this game seriously excels. We are pushing 2 hours here, so just a couple more things I want to talk about. Obviously, lots more we can talk about, and I'm sure the conversation will carry on the Discord server for a long time to come. We've got a lot more of the game to experience, and we're planning a lot of videos that we're going to be putting out on this. Timur Hafiz asks, do you think CDPR was unethical in actively hiding last-gen console footage and even restricting PC viewers from showing their own footage to hide the bugs? Good question. There's marketing, and then there's are they hiding the fact that it's not working very well on the base PS4 and the base Xbox One?
I have to say, I understand how some people feel that way, but I will say definitively no. They were not hiding anything other than they were placating to, or they were not placating. They were forced to play with a bunch of people who have openly admitted that they want this game to fail. So that's who you're working with. So if you're not setting up rules when you're dealing with somebody who's actively out to destroy you, you are a fool. You are a fool if you think that people who have openly stated that they want to destroy you, that they want to round you up and kill you, that you think that these people deserve any level of favor, not even play, because if you're playing fair, then that's great. And you are an honorable person if you're sticking to the rules, but don't give them scenarios or situations that they can do that. We've talked to death on this topic of reviewers being given these review copies, and this is not the only this is not the only game this has happened in. There are a bunch of people who still to this day take games that have horrendous bugs in them in their day zero or pre day zero version that has no patches, who take that footage and go, look at all the bugs in this game. That is absolutely it's unprofessional and it's dishonest, and everybody knows that is a cheap, dirty trick, but so many people don't know when they're looking at that being played out.
All right, I think some folks were a little confused about what you were saying there. So you're just saying there was good reason for them.
So when they sent out these copies to the people who were reviewing the game, they said you can't use your own footage, but what you can do is take pictures. How many times have you guys honestly heard that these people were given permission to use the photo mode to take any pictures they wanted and share those pictures? Did you hear that from anybody? Did you hear that from anybody? Most people will have to say no, because even I was taken back when I started seeing photos and I was like, hey, wait, I thought this wasn't allowed. And I contacted somebody in a hurry because I thought they were breaking the NDA. And they said, no, they said take pictures with the thing. And I was like, they said that they couldn't use any footage. It was like, yes, moving footage and audio, no. Specifically, they don't want you to spoil that, but we are totally allowed to take pictures. And I'm like, I heard on numerous people's review going, I don't like the CDPR is refusing to allow us to use our own footage or even take pictures. That's not what they said.
Okay, I think we're getting off into the weeds a little bit here, though. Here's I think the crux of the issue when we're talking about footage. So I think you're saying that there are those out there who would have deliberately represented the game as buggier than it was, or in order to hurt CDPR.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? All right. And that may be.
How,
I believe that's true. I believe that's true. But there's still an ethical question that I think is fair to consider, and that's should they have should that be the case that those who were planning to get this for PS4 and Xbox One didn't realize that that it was going to have these problems, like they had no opportunity to have that represented to them.
Gee, I mean, I know I have been warning people for the past 4 years that this game was going to struggle on baseline consoles. I don't know if that's a valid argument.
Well, I mean, not everybody listens to our show, though.
Some people are shocked by the fact that their 8.5, 9-year-old console is having trouble running an end generation game and a new generation game. Like, again, I understand that some people don't have the ability, and I'm not saying that you're bad for having consoles. I think consoles are they're a good choice for a lot of people because of stuff. I think there's a lot of problems with them, mostly teeming from the actual companies that are fairly greedy. They do give you a good deal on a new console, price wise, when these things come out in comparison to other systems. Like a $400 console is actually $400, $500, $600. That's a decent price to be able to play competitive games that are on the PC at the same time of release. However, the fact that they then rope you into that for the next 8 years, charging you exorbitant prices on their systems and on their memberships and on stuff like that up until very recently didn't actually get you very much for your buck. I think that's been problematic. And again, I don't want to get anybody upset saying that the consoles are trash, but I am very worried about the trend of people believing that their 8 to 9-year-old device can run current day stuff well.
Right, but I mean, if they're selling the game for that console, if they're selling the game for that platform,
again, I think this is a personal thing that everybody needs to answer themselves. I personally do not have any problem with the way that they marketed this game, because I understand that nuance, and that I understand that nuance is apparently non-existent anymore, and there's no way that you can take a group of people and say, hey, look, this game is really designed for the next gen console, but we're giving you this backwards, essentially what it's not backwards compatibility, but it's somewhat within that vein of stuff. Going, look, we understand that you're working on this, and that we understand that you're not making this for this older model of thing, but the fact that it still runs on it is kind of nice, although it's not going to run smoothly. I understand that there's people who can understand that, but there's a lot of people who they look at a scenario with no nuance at all. They don't understand anything when it comes to aging technology, and they think that a machine that they bought today should be in perfect working function in comparison to a machine that they bought today versus 10 years ago. I mean, I know guys who don't even use the same hammer for 3 years in a row. So, I get that.
I mean, true.
And in a way that's a bad thing, because disposable culture, disposable technology is not something that I technically agree with when it comes to pretty much everything but computers. I think a car that's 10 years old should still function as a car. I don't think the car should be stalling out because its computer has failed. I think that's a bad thing, and that's something you can get upset about. But I don't understand why, when somebody's wanting to run the latest visual hard software on a decade-old device, that they think that that's somehow them being robbed or stolen from. I can't get that, but I also don't believe that it's my right to tell them that that's what you should think, because when it comes down to it, when it comes to the gaming platforms of your choice, that's your choice. So if you think that you weren't given a good shake on this, that is completely subjective to your decision and should be respected by, I respect your opinion when it comes to that. I personally don't see it that way, but it's not something that I'm going to fight you on, because I'm like, yeah, well, it's too bad. And I wish that you had a better experience, and I don't like what's gone on here as far as like in general, but I can't fault CDPR for doing this, because in two ways they like, you're doomed if you do, you're doomed if you don't, and it's like, well, at some point somebody's got to draw a line somewhere. That's kind of the way that I look at it. Confusing,
Well,
I know. Sorry.
and let's not forget that there were multiple delays. It was a current gen game, and then it's sort of become a next gen game. It's a complicated situation. I do feel like it
and which is why if somebody feels upset about this, I like 100%. I understand where you're coming from, and I understand that your frustration with that is something that you know and that I do not know. I don't know your frustration with that, because I'm not in that position, and I don't expect that of them. But that's not saying that I'm just going to ignore your experience with that. That's obviously a pain in the butt for you as well, and that's too bad. And I hope that there's a solution that can be found. But I would not have looked at this and said, no, they did something wrong here. I don't think they did something wrong when it came to the review, the way that they gave the review access, or the way that they showcased the game on future or like up-to-date consoles and not the baseline consoles. Again, I'm looking at that and going,
I mean, that's
who else has done that? I mean, there's very few studios that ever show the game. Like, I don't think there's been a major game that's highlighted their basic console version over top of the newer like the pros and stuff. I don't think this happened in the last 2 years.
no. I don't think it's unethical that they showed the best footage. Like, that's like running on the best systems. That's what the companies always do. That's just marketing. The problem lies for me in the fact that it is kind of a broken product on the baseline consoles. I do have an issue with, and even I'm hearing that it's even pretty buggy on the Xbox Series X and the PS5. And again, I mean, it's buggy on PC too, but the fact that it seems to really work poorly on the baseline consoles. Now, even some who are playing it on those, dealing with the bugs, are having a good experience, which
and like at the same time, you can appreciate the fact that they are trying to still reach out to this demographic of players, right? Because like it'd be pretty shitty to be like, oh, I've been waiting for this game for so long, and then they're like, sorry, it's just too janky on these current gen systems, so we're only making it available for these ones. Like that'd be pretty shit.
That's a very good point. I mean, it's nice that they're not forcing you to buy a new console to play this game if you're a console gamer.
Like they're trying, like they were building it for those consoles at the time, and to just drop them would be pretty poor form, especially since these people have been waiting and following and like, hyping it this whole time, like waiting for this product, and then to just deny it at the end would be very poor form indeed. So like, yes, it's janky right now, but at the same time, most games are janky when they first come out. Like, this is one of the few games that I've bought at the beginning, because usually I'm perfectly willing to wait for all of you guys to test it out and tell me what's what afterwards until I like make my decision, get it or not.
Indeed.
So I think that when you raise a good point here, and I believe that overall, that in 2 months or a month even after a bunch of patches are out and a bunch of stuff is running, I think that a lot of these issues will be in the rearview mirror. And for a game this game has enormous replayability, and once they add in some of the expansions and the new content and some of this other stuff that's coming out, and especially if you're modding the game, again, I know that it's kind of a PC only thing, but I think that overall it's like you're going to have a much. I mean, already the game has been a good portion of the bugs are now gone from the early release copies, the ones that I mentioned, the ones that people were like saying, "Oh no, the game is terrible because I got this early review copy and it was garbage." It's like you get the early review copy and you never updated anything, and you're now like a month later. No. I hate that. I hate that so much. So yeah, I don't think it'll be I think it'll be so much cleaner in just a few weeks. I think it'll be really solid because again, you can't test for all of the stuff that happens. Like most testing companies, they have like maybe 50, maybe 100 people. And even then, they don't test things in the way that you test them as a player. There's one fellow that we were spending that was on our Discord a fair bit who often said that they use this like software to test the program. Again, software testing is great, but it's not going to show you. It's not going to fix. It's not even going to fix half of the issues that you're going to run into.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think we need to call it there. This is obviously there's a lot to consider. There's a lot of perspectives and a lot of things to consider on that issue in particular, as well as with the game in general. But overall, I believe all of us here at the Triple S League give it a very high score. It's a very good game. Lots of bugs, but like if we put that aside, it's pretty incredible.
I'm sticking with our original, or with our community vote here, the
cumulative. Yep.
8 out of 10 is where I think it is for now. I know I'm lucky. I have had very few bugs in this game. I have only crashed twice, and that was a problem that I was quickly able to fix. I have not experienced. I've only experienced about 2 animation glitches, and that's about it. One of them was really funny.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I gotta say that I think the game is very solid. Definitely an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10, and this coming from a person who has to deal with considerable physical pain when just trying to play the damn game.
Yeah. Moontag, any final thoughts?
Yeah, it's 8 out of 10 for me as well. Like, glossing over the bugs, I'm really impressed with the NPCs and characters and just like overall interaction ability with things. And yeah, I've been also quite lucky with having pretty few bugs, like a couple of audio things, couple of animation things, but nothing too obnoxious, I guess, other than just the personal character appearance.
All right, fair enough. And if you want to talk more about this, join the Discord server. Find the link in the description below. There's a lot of discussion happening there, and we're on there regularly. And there's voice rooms there. We can talk about stuff. Lots going on there. Definitely join the Discord server. Especially, I think there's a few folks in the live chat today who are new to the show, and we welcome you here. And we encourage you to check out the Discord server. We keep it, there's disagreement and debate that happens there, but we keep it positive, we keep it non-toxic. We've got great mods. The rules are very clear about what's acceptable, what's not, so definitely check that out. Anyway, gotta wrap this up real quick here. Thank you for supporting the show by listening live or after the fact. Don't forget to slam that like button if you haven't already. And I want to thank our Patreon supporters and channel members: Robin, Shua82, Timebean, Schoolman, Lady Reaver, Dracoden, Niv, 2Tall12, Atomic Stew. Those are our big damn heroes on Patreon. And our channel members on YouTube: Jer Schultz, Night City Punk, Game Notes, and Terror K. This is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content, including lots of Cyberpunk 2077 content to come. My name is Ash. On behalf of Cybsidian and Moontag, thank you all so very much for listening. We'll talk to you again very soon.